So, what happens when a citizen investigation starts pulling on a thread and uncovers a trail of alleged fraud that seems to lead from a local daycare all the way to the mayor's office? Today, we're breaking down all the claims connecting these two seemingly different worlds right in Minneapolis.
And that right there is the claim that kicks this whole thing off. The source video makes this incredibly direct and pretty provocative connection. It's a huge accusation, so let's follow the breadcrumbs that the investigator lays out.
All right, so every investigation has to start somewhere. This one begins at a single building in Minneapolis called the Quality Learning Center. But, as the investigator in our source video found out, from the moment they showed up, things just didn't feel right.
And we're not talking about just any small business here. The source reports that this center received a pretty staggering $4 million in federal funding. So, with that much public money on the line, you can see how the stakes of this investigation just got a whole lot higher.
Yeah, the on-site observations really painted a strange picture. First off, the sign itself was misspelled, Learning Center. Then you had conflicting parking signs, some for a daycare, some for a restaurant. Staff were reportedly confrontational, even taking photos of people who came by. But the biggest red flag? The hours. The center was apparently operating from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m., with cars coming and going late at night. Hours that the source claims are totally illegal for a licensed daycare.
Okay, so with all these weird things happening, the next logical question is, who is running this place? So naturally, the investigation turned to figuring out who the key players were. And here they are, the main individuals at the heart of this story. You've got Abraham Ali, the manager of the daycare. Then there's Faradasa Ali, who's the landlord of the building. We also have a third name, Fosia Shik, who the source alleges is actually the landlord, just using a different identity. And finally, Jacob Frey, the mayor of Minneapolis. Now, let's see how the investigation claims to connect all four of these people.
So, the investigation starts to dig into the past, and it really hones in on the building's landlord, Faradasa Ali. And what the source claims to find is a paper trail leading back to a different daycare, one that was actually shut down for fraud.
Now, this next part is really the linchpin of the whole investigation. The source claims that the landlord, Faradasa Ali, is the very same person as Fosia Shik, a name that's linked to the same address. This connection is basically the key that supposedly unlocks a hidden history of fraud.
So let's just walk through this timeline of this alleged history. According to this source, it all starts back in 2015. A daycare run by Fosia Shik gets raided for fraud. Fast forward to 2018, she's convicted and loses her license. The source then claims that this same exact person is now operating as Faradasa Ali, the landlord for this new, suspicious daycare.
Okay, so with a potential history of fraud established, the investigation takes a huge turn. It pivots to its most explosive claim yet, a direct connection between this suspicious daycare and the mayor of Minneapolis himself, Jacob Frey.
And to make this connection, the source video literally asks this question right to the audience. It's setting up a visual comparison that's supposed to be the first major link between the daycare and the mayor's inner circle.
So on the left, we've got Abraham Ali, the man identified as the manager of the Quality Learning Center. And on the right, that's a screenshot from Mayor Frey's viral election victory video. The source is alleging they're one and the same person, placing the daycare manager right there celebrating with the mayor.
But wait, the connections don't stop there. The investigator then points out that the landlord, Faradasa Ali, the same person who was allegedly convicted of fraud under a different name, owns another daycare business called Huey Childcare.
And there it is. This is the second major political connection alleged in the video. A simple search for this other daycare, owned by the same landlord, apparently leads directly back to Mayor Jacob Frey.
All right, we've been following a lot of different threads in this investigation, right? It's a lot to keep track of. So now, let's pull them all together and map out the full chain of allegations, just as they're presented in the source video.
Okay, so this lays out the full chain. It starts with an individual who gets convicted of fraud and loses their daycare license. That same person, allegedly using a new name, then becomes the landlord for a brand new daycare. That center's manager is then supposedly spotted celebrating with the mayor. And finally, the source shows the mayor touring a different daycare owned by that very same landlord.
So the whole thing really builds to this crucial question of accountability. The source ends by asking this: what systems are actually in place to prevent operators who've been shut down for fraud from just relaunching under a new identity?
especially when they appear to have connections to powerful city officials? It's a really provocative question, and it gets right to the heart of this entire citizen-led investigation.